Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bob Gartner. I'm working for Swiss Radio and Television in Tokyo and French Public Radio, Radio France. We are very happy to have today Miss Sayo Saruta. She's a lawyer. She practiced law in America. Now she lived in America for 5 years. She's practicing law also in Japan. She's heading a think tank called the New Diplomacy Initiative. That think tank, you can always correct me, Ms. Saruta, wants to disseminate informations about the relations between Japan and the US, and especially now she will try to explain what can happen in the relationship between the US and Japan under the Trump administration. But she's also very close to Okinawa, to the political leaders in Okinawa. And she will also talk about the presence of the U.S. bases in Okinawa. She thinks that the debate regarding the relationship between Japan and the U.S. has been dominated, monopolized by the same established people over the years. So she thinks through her foundation or her think tank, she would like to spread alternative informations, different informations which are not very known and not reported by the media, Japanese media in particular. So I leave the floor to Ms. Saruta, and please reserve her a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and also thank you very much everybody here to join us today. I'm very honored to give a speech here with FCCJ. My name is Sayo Saruta, Director of New Diplomacy Initiative. That is a think tank established in 2013 in Tokyo. I'm a lawyer here. Then I had done a lot of litigation here before I went to the United States. But why I started to establish one think tank called New Diplomacy is based on my experience in Washington, D.C. In 2009, Prime Minister Hatoyama took power. At that time, I was in D.C. And when Prime Minister Hatoyama said, Futenma base should be relocated, not in Okinawa, at least out of Okinawa. I think that is a very new idea, interesting idea. If it is possible, that would be wonderful, I thought. But the scenery in Washington, D.C. was very different. No Japanese people in D.C. wanted to bring his voice to the United States. I'm not talking about American people, but the Japanese people in Washington, D.C. They didn't help Prime Minister's policy at all, including the embassy people, government people, as well as media and corporation people. So I was very surprised that why even Prime Minister cannot bring his voice to the United States. Prime Minister is the top of the country, one state. So is there anything I can do? I was just a student of master program, but if there is something I can do, I would like to do, I thought. Then I started lobbying on a Hill, the US Congress as well as the government of the United States. So I started arranging a lot of meetings of Okinawan politicians and American political leaders, also try to have press conference of Okinawan leaders with the American media. That is my starting point to have interest in US-Japan diplomacy. Today, I would like to explain what I found from that kind of experience in the United States. today I want to focus on 2 points. First one is Japan creates some of US voices by providing funding and also information to promote policies in Japan. As you know, the United States has huge influence here in Japan. Then the Japanese government sometimes use, that is a voice of the United States. We have to follow that. They don't say that, but they imply we have to follow the decision by the United States. Or a lot of media broadcast that kind of information. That is the United States voice. But some of them are created by the Japanese people, including the Japanese companies, as well as Japanese government. Second point is, diplomacy of establishment has been maintaining the existing US-Japan relationship. I would like to talk about this from the view of before the election which Trump won, also after the election. As you know, there are so many typical US voices here in Japan, which is brought through the US-Japan diplomacy. If it is about nuclear plants, nuclear energy, the voice is always telling Japan, you have to restore nuclear plants as soon as possible. If it's about TPP, joining Trans-Pacific Partnership, please. About Okinawa, Japan has to build a new base in Henoko as soon as possible. Japan should also use the right for collective self-defense immediately. These are the very big, important issue here in Japan, which could divide country. But typical, I'm just saying typical, I'm not saying this is the real US voices, but the typical US voices, which Japanese people always think, oh, this is the United States voice, is like that, I think. So US voices have huge influence in Japan. By the way, this is one of the most famous reports on security and foreign issues. Did the picture on the screen, the Armitage 9 report. We call it Armitage 9 report. This is written by several, like about 10 people, 10 American Japan experts. Then they recommend a lot of things to Japanese people. Then we Japanese realize these recommendations in 5 years or in 10 years after it published, it is said here in Japan. So I now explain the typical voice of the United States, but is that really precious from the United States or voices that Japan established? This question is from my experience in the United States. There are so many surprising experiences when I did lobbying on the Hill. Nobody knows about Okinawa. I don't say nobody, but very few people knows about Okinawa. Then now it's very famous, but anti-TPP US presidential candidates from both Democratic and Republican parties. But we Japanese have been thinking that we have to join the TPP because the United States want us to join. What happened here? Or Washington, D.C.'s diverse voices about the Henoko base. Say the report was written by written by 10 people, including Mr. Richard Armitage and Mr. Joseph Nye, who are the two most influential American here in Japan. But they say, we should think about another option. If Henoko is very difficult for Okinawans, we should think about another one. They said that. I heard that with my ears in Washington, D.C. So who said that? What is the American voice? About nuclear energy as well. The United States has been against reprocessing rock castle infrastructure here in Japan and the Japanese plutonium stock. But the Japanese government hasn't heard of the voice for a long time. We have to do reprocessing. We need it. We cannot stop reprocessing at all. Is really this pressure from the United States? Now you see the article of, this is Nikkei Shimbun in 2012, September, when the DPJ government wanted to adopt cabinet resolution deciding that we will abandon nuclear power plant until by 2030s. Then at that time, we saw a lot of articles on Japanese media from the United States or American people saying that Japan, please keep using nuclear power plants. Please keep using the nuclear power plants. But one of the most famous person who said Japan should keep using the nuclear power plant was Mr. John Hamre. He is president of CSIS, one of the most famous think tank in Washington, D.C. But his background is he's an advisory board member of Centrus Energy. That is a uranium company which sell a lot of uranium to Japan. And also, when I do lobbying on the Hill, when I just walk around and move around in Washington, D.C., I met a lot of Japanese media people or a lot of Japanese politicians, especially LDP Diet members. Then they are trying to collect the voices which they can use in Japan. One example is in 2014, right before the administration Abe adopted the cabinet order to allow to use the collective self-defense. This is my experience. Two of LDP, one is LDP, one is different party, but the two members of parliament visited Washington, D.C. and did a very big conference, the press conference in front of State Department of the United States. And so many Japanese media came to get their voices. Then they said, I met Mr. Armitage. He said, collective self-defense is a very good thing, so you have to adopt it as soon as possible. Then I met this person in Washington, D.C. He said, this is very good for strengthening Japanese-U.S. relationship, blah, blah, blah. So he said, continued. Then one day after, we saw the internet news saying that two politicians visiting Washington, D.C. saying that this American people said, American this person said, American Japan expert said, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, the very big press conference in front of State Department was to broadcast the voices of the United States. They don't care who was the person in front of the State Department. They don't care who came from Japan, but they just wanted to collect the voice of the United States to promote collective self-defense policy in Japan. So he came, two politicians from Japan came from Tokyo to Washington, D.C. to collect these American-Japan expert voice, and also media gathered to the press conference because they want to spread the American-Japan expert voice to Japan. So it is very much dealt with Japanese people. So who is the United States? Who wants the info? Is there any other information? That became to my question in my mind. Then I started to study about the system of the United States and U.S.-Japan diplomacy. Japan's presence in Washington is very limited, like government, embassy, business community, and media and politicians who visit Washington, D.C. very frequently. But there is no voice from Okinawa, no voice from Fukushima. Also in U.S. side, very few people in the United States have interest in Japan. There are three tiers, I think, who have interest in Japan or who have influence on U.S.-Japan relationships. First one is administration itself, but only Japan chair in State Department and also Defense Department have interest in Japan a lot. Others don't care that much about Japan. Second, Congress. Very, very few people have interest in Japan. Maybe some of you are from other countries, so it's not a very surprising thing, but usually Japanese people always think about the United States. So when I talk this to the people, to the Japanese people, they say, is that true? No American people think about Japan at all? Like, that's the reaction of Japanese people always. So first tier and second tier don't care about Japan that much. I mean, of course, there are some number of people who have an interest in Japan always, but I'm talking about not like the level of what Japanese people think about the United States. Then also the third tier, think tanks and universities, lobbyists, that is very important in the case of US-Japan diplomacy because first tier and second tier don't have any very strong participation into the US-Japan diplomacy like the one media needs or Japanese government needs or Japanese academician need. Then in this case, Japan expert, we call it in Japanese Chinichi-ha, are also very, I would say, one-sided, or I would say their interest is very one-sided, yes. They heavily rely on the US-Japan alliance, and also they are in favor of current US military presence, so they don't think about to reduce the number of military bases in Okinawa. And also they are strong supporters of free trade. They are, of course, pro-TPP. Then when we think about the United States voice, every day we hear the voices of the United States. Then on the newspaper of Japan, we always read the American news every day, literally every day. But the Japan expert in DC community who have very real influence on Japan-US relationships are very limited, like 5 people to 30 people. This is the answer of my interview to many people in Washington and Japan. Only 5 to 30. Additionally, Japanese government and companies have been giving funding to US think tankers and lobbyists. Look at the number, I don't read it here, but for example, 2 very famous and influential think tanks in Washington, D.C., Brookings Institution and Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, are given a lot of funding from Japanese government or Japanese government-related agencies and organizations. Also, lobbying firms receive a lot of funding from Japan for promoting TPP or disseminating voices of Japan in the United States in terms of comfort women issue or Japan Sea on textbook or US bases in Japan. These are all monies which Japanese government has been providing them. I would like to use one case study about TPP. As I told you, in Japan, TPP, at the very beginning of discussion of TPP, we all said that TPP is something the United States is promoting, so we have to join it. There is no option other than that. Look at this. Aiken Gump is a very famous law firm doing lobbying on the Hill. The Japanese government provided $1,360,000 US to Aiken Gump. Then Aiken Gump established the Friends of TPP caucus in the United States Congress. That is amazing. Can you imagine that other country government created one caucus on the Congress for something very important? It's not like Japan caucus, but the TPP caucus is in the United States. In the United States Congress is made by the Japanese government. It is very easy to get that kind of information if you open the website of Department of Justice of the United States government. About CSIS, JETRO, it's not the government, but JETRO's money is from the Japanese government. It's almost same. JETRO provided $100,000 US to CSIS. Then CSIS had a closed meeting with US government officials. JETRO member was permitted to attend the meeting. CSIS held a seminar promoting the TPP. at the seminar, CEO of JETRO gave a speech at the seminar. Why is that? It's because JETRO gave the money for it. Otherwise, there is no reason for the American people to allow JETRO to give speech there. The co-chair of the caucus, which was just made by the Japanese government, gave speech at the CSIS symposium. The CSIS expert testimony in the Congress in line with Japanese government. So all these incidents are at least promoted by the Japanese money. But when we see the news about that in Japan, it doesn't say anything about the Japanese money. In the United States, now there is a TPP caucus. So now America is taking one step more advance to promote the TPP. Now we Japanese maybe have to join it as soon as possible. News should put the information about the money from Japan. Money from Japan made the TPP caucus in the United States, but we cannot, we don't have any opportunity to know about it. I made this picture from my experience of these very strange U.S.-Japan diplomatic system. Government of Japan, corporations, Japanese corporations give funding to American lobbyists or think tanks or Japan experts. Then also members of Japan give them some information about it. Then Japan expert, yes, here very important thing is Japan expert, I call it Japan expert. They are expert working in think tank or university right now, but if the president changes, if next administration take power, they would become a member of real staff of government of the United States. That's a very different system from the Japanese system, but that's also why the Japan expert, who is not in the government right now, have very strong power, or at least the Japanese people think they have very strong power in the United States. Then if Japan expert says something like Mr. Armitage said, the collective self-defense in Japan is very important. The Japanese Diet should adopt the resolution as soon as possible. The Japanese media broadcast it immediately. The voice is amplified very much. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs or corporations or media are the part of this system. Then now I would like to talk about Trump, President Trump. There are so many things which had been taught to change after President Trump take the position. During presidential election, he said, as you know, Japanese government, Japanese people does not share cost enough for the security. Why do we have to protect you, defend you when you are attacked? Why you are not protecting us at all? Or withdrawal of the U.S. military unless Japan pays all cost. So some Okinawan people were a little bit excited to hear the message from candidate Trump. Or if Trump will win, the base might be closed without any relocation. About nuclear weapon, he also said that might be possible. That is maybe okay if Japan want to have nuclear weapon because we have North Korea near Japan. These are the sayings of President Trump during the presidential election. But everybody was very surprised when we saw the summit of President Abe and President Trump and Prime Minister Abe at the beginning of this month. The one most surprising to me was President Trump said, "Thank you for hosting our armed forces. Thank you for hosting our armed forces." Is that totally different from what you said? And also the core statement of two leaders say, U.S.-Japan alliance is the cornerstone of peace, prosperity, and freedom in the Asia-Pacific region. Then it also says, Henoko is the only solution. what happened between the election and the summit. There were 3 months. What happened between them? That is the time for Japanese government to try to persuade President Trump to come back the existing U.S.-Japan alliance, the existing Japan-U.S. relationships. As you know, the Prime Minister Abe visited Mr. Trump's apartment in New York, and also he visited Pearl Harbor with Obama. That is a good thing. However, he tried to show how great the Japan-U.S. alliance is. It is very ironic that a few years ago, about TPP, Japan said, we cannot miss the U.S. bus of TPP. We have to catch the bus. Now, the U.S. says, Japan, please persuade U.S. President. The former USTR official, Mr. Froman, said even 2 weeks ago that TPP should be still considered as a basic level of the trade between two countries. So Japan should persuade Trump that TPP is great. They don't have any direct channel, including him, the American establishment who has occupied Japan-U.S. diplomacy, don't have any channel between them and Trump. So they cannot bring their voices directly to Trump. So they asked the Japanese government try to persuade President Trump. I remember my experience when Prime Minister Hatoyama was in the administration. He said, as I told you, at least outside of Okinawa Prefecture, he wanted to close the Futenma base without any replacement facilities in Okinawa. At a time in Washington, D.C., no Japanese officials wanted to help Prime Minister Hatoyama. Then at one meeting, which was organized by the Japanese embassy, one official from the Japanese government told the congressmen and Congress staffers and also think tank Japan expert that there are some policies of DPJ which were wrong. But I'm working for the Japanese government under Prime Minister Hatoyama, so I cannot tell that to them. It is wrong. So can you please tell this is wrong to them? Because I cannot tell them. That is almost same kind of structure that now Trump is, whatever it is good or bad, but when Trump says something different from what the existing Japan-U.S. alliance has been doing, try to use external influence or gaiatsu or foreign influence to try to set it up as it is. So come back Trump from both U.S. and Japan establishment. When the Hatoyama time, come back Hatoyama from both U.S. and Japan establishment. I will just remember that. Of course, Trump and Hatoyama is totally different. I don't want to, think they are same. Their position is different. What they want to do is totally different. But the system of U.S.-Japan alliance work kind of same. It is the diplomacy of establishment, I think. Then after the summit, or I could say after the Trump election in November, the current discussion in Japan about security is also very narrow. I think we should have nationwide discussion about what Japan should do about security when we cannot totally rely on the United States only. We should think about how we can protect our country, or what kind of relationships should be made with the Chinese government or Korean government. But the voice of Japanese society is not very diverse. Typical voices is to increase Japanese defense power and or create alliance-like relationships with Australia, India, and Southeast Asian countries. Then some says Trump administration will ask Japan to promote this kind of policies, so we have to do it. no comments on these are made by the Trump administration yet at all. But we assume that they will say that. That's why we have to increase Japanese defense force or create alliance-like relationships with these kind of countries. But when we think about increasing the power of defense force or creating alliance like these countries, is that what exactly what Abe administration has been aiming at for a long time? Nothing has changed at all. It's same. So thank you very much, Mr. Trump, or atmosphere around Mr. Trump. We can now strengthen our defense forces here in Japan with a lot of support from the society. Or now this is the only way to protect us. That's why we have to make an alliance like, I don't say alliance itself, but alliance like relationships with Asian countries, excluding, of course, China, towards China. So I think this is a time for nationwide discussion. Is that a really option to, I said that there are two, oh my gosh, two voices are now very big in Japanese society, but is that the only things we can do here? Or is that a really good thing for peace in Japan, peace for Japan, or peace in this region, or peace for the world? So now it is the first opportunity to think about Japanese security without complete reliance on the United States. I don't know now, after the summit, already now everybody think this is a way to survive this Trump administration era, to just completely rely on the United States. But at least right after the election, still I feel there is a little bit some space to think about. Let's think about Japanese security without complete reliance on the United States. So of course, I live in the United States, and I like the United States very much. There are so many good things of the United States. And I don't say we should cut the relationships with the United States, but while maintaining good relationships with the United States, absolute reliance can change to relative one. Abe went to New York right after the election and wanted to show how great the alliance is. But look at Okinawa, look at the relationships with China or Korea. Is the relationship with the United States, totally dependence on the United States is such a good thing? Of course, it might be, it has good aspect, of course, but is that the perfect one? Is that the best one? Is there anything we can recover, we can change? Of course, there are so many problematic things. The top one is Okinawa base, I think. So we have to, first, we Japanese should have to consider what we should do for our security. What should we do with the relationships with the United States? And also diplomatic effort has to be made towards Asian countries. It is very much needed, I think. In my case, I have been working with Okinawans for a long time and also doing a lobbying on Washington, D.C., lobbying on the Hill, the U.S. Congress, try to persuade American politicians to solve this Okinawa-based issue. So I think there are some points we can mention to President Trump and Trump administration. Of course, it is very difficult, but Trump administration think most important thing is Great America Again. Then also they have a lot of deficit of the budget. So is there any bases in Japan which are not needed for making the United States again great again? Yes, there are some. There are some bases it is not needed. I'm not saying we have to withdraw all bases from the United States, from Japan, or bases from Okinawa, but is Henoko really needed to keep the United States great? Or not only that, but also in order to protect Japan, do we need Marines in Henoko? The Kadena base is huge with air forces, and also naval base in Yokosuka is huge. These two bases are the largest power to deter the Chinese threat, it is said. So let's think about like that. I think it's not the things right now for Japanese people to just stick with the Trump administration, not criticizing even the president order about the immigration. So Prime Minister Abe didn't mention anything about it. Even he was asked by the press conference at the press conference by the media people, but he just said it's not. I don't answer to you. I mean, it's an external matter of the United States, so I cannot answer to the question. But we should think about what we should do as a Japanese, what we should do with the United States-Japan relationships. Now is really time to think about it for Japanese people. So yeah, lastly, this is my last slide, but now I think multi-track diplomacy is very much necessary because there are so many voices in Japan. The voice of Abe administration is not the only voice of Japan, especially when it comes to the topics I explained at the beginning of this talk, like nuclear power plants or Okinawa base or security law or collective self-defense, as well as TPP. I don't know about TPP poll right now, but about the Okinawa and nuclear power plants and security law, in the Japanese public poll, the people who are against it are the majority almost all the time. So the typical voice from the United States, or the voices which Japanese government try to create from Japan up from the United States and they want to bring to Japan, were different from the poll result here in Japan. So I myself try to continue working, bringing a lot of voices different from the existing voice to the U.S.-Japan diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Saruta. Who wants to ask the first question? Please. Please, can you identify yourself?
Yasu Kamai, TMS Japan. Saruta-san, I'm a bit confused. I was thinking listening to the first part or the first half of the speech that you were saying what looks like American pressure is not actually American pressure. Japanese leaders are using America as their loudspeaker. That's my impression. Now you're saying we've got to do something, Japanese leaders must do something or some. So which is your point? Japanese leaders are using the US or US is manipulating Japan?
Can I answer? Oh, okay. Thank you very much for the very good question. I think it's a really good point, and also I should have explained that is much more clearer. My point is the diplomacy of establishment control both sides. That's what I want to tell. It means, generally speaking, before President Trump appears, always Japanese government try to use the American voices to promote some policies in Japan. But now, very surprising thing happened in the United States. Nobody expected that. Then the establishment in the field of Japan in the United States cannot control the Japan-US relationships. So now it's very strange, but they want to use the Japanese government, try to let Trump back to the existing diplomacy. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Can I answer to your question? So I was a little bit confused when I saw a lot of phenomena after the election in November. Then I tried to do more research. Then also try to reform my story, my system idea. Then I reached that. Anyway, I mean, as a result, establishment just to try to control the diplomacy for the way to control their own country's policy in Japan as well as in the United States. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Next question. Yes?
Kind of a related question. My name is Fujita. I'm a freelance with the Yukon Fuji. What you're trying to do is basically the same as what the Abe administration is doing, because you would like to influence on influential people in America. That's why you're going to D.C., right? To let the influential people in Washington, D.C. to know about the other opinions in Japan. So basically, regardless of the contents of the opinion, what you're trying to do is the same.
Thank you very much. I sometimes say that it is very effective, we have to bring the voices to the United States to use American media or American people to tell different story from
to Japanese government, so that you can change the Abe administration's policies.
To the Japanese government, if it works very well, yes.
Okay, so it's basically the same thing. What you're trying to do is the same thing, but different comments.
In a way, yes. In a way, no. I think, anyway, diplomacy is part of the policy of one country. Then Japan is the democratic country. So the lot of diversity of voices have to be reflected to the diplomacy as well. So if there is only one channel which is bringing just one tiny group of information, we should also put more diversity of voices into that channel. So that is my way to change this society. So you might say like that, but I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
yes.
because I'm trying to do the same thing, but different contents. In America, Japan is reported so limited manner. Compared with, as you said, the reports about America and Japan, and compared with the reports about Japan and America. So I like to balance the volume of the
yes.
Mutual understanding.
Yeah, I agree with you. Then very different from what the government is doing, also corporation is doing. From what I'm doing is, we don't have enough money at all. We don't have money at all, but they have tons of money. Then
yeah, but how are you going to do that? Funding from the grassroots people?
Yes, of course. Yes. So,
wants to ask the next question? Please.
Siegfried Nittel, freelancer from Germany. What kind of role do you have for Japan in mind? A kind of an independent Japan, or a Japan a little bit reliant from the US, or what do you think is the future of Japan? It's perhaps you talked about Prime Minister Hatoyama. He want to have an East Asian community. Is it going in this way? You're thinking, or what is the future of Japan in your thinking?
Thank you very much. It is a very difficult question, and that is exactly what the Japanese people should discuss about at this moment. Then again, as I told you, I'm not thinking we should cut the relationships with the United States. That is a very important country. Then also we have been relying on the United States for a long time. The things now we can start is to try to what is the best word? I don't know, but the percentage of the reliance on the United States. Then if the United States says something about Japan, we can say sometimes no, which was not happened for a long time. But even if President Trump said something not very good for Japan, we should say no if they say not good thing. But it seems like the Abe administration will just follow the decision made by the Trump in terms of maybe trade or economy. So we should say no to them if it's not good for Japan. So the change the complete reliance into the relative one, and if the policy came from the United States is good, we can say yes. But if not good, we can say no. Then also, we have to cultivate the good relationships with the Korea or China or other countries in Asia. The one very good example is the ambassador to Korea is now in Japan, and we cannot we cannot send him back to Korea very soon, but we should, have ambassador in Korea. He is there for diplomacy between Japan and Korea. So why, at this very important moment, it is shaking time in terms of international politics, but why he is not there? Why he's in Japan? Like these kind of things is breaking the relationship with Korea. So there are many things we can do. Then also, you say East Asian community. Of course, it's not very, very easy thing to achieve. Then look at the European community. European community is the one of the European Union is the one of the model for the East Asian community. But the model is now unstable. So it's maybe very tough to follow that. But still, we should take a step towards that kind of direction to have a lot of dialogue with these countries. That is my answer now.
Michael Penn of the Shingetsu News Agency. I know you've been deeply involved in trying to connect leaders in Okinawa with Washington, and there we have a picture of Mayor Inamine, and I know you've also been helping Governor Onaga. To date, when you are doing these missions, Onaga has now gone 3 times to Washington. What level of meetings are you able to get? What kind of response are you getting? Can you just kind of give us some idea of how satisfied you are about the results of these missions so far, and what kind of reception you're getting on the Washington side so far?
Thank you very much for the question. Before I answer to the question, I want to clarify that I myself doesn't help Mr. Onaga himself. I'm always supporting the people who are going to Washington, D.C. together with Mr. Onaga. But Mr. Onaga's visit itself is coordinated by the Washington office of Okinawa Prefecture. So I sometimes go there with the delegation, but I'm arranging a lot of meetings for the assembly members of the Okinawa Prefecture or Nao City Mayor or some mayors from other cities in Okinawa. So not to the Mr. Onaga himself. But having said that, as deeply involved in the kind of activities of Okinawa, I know some sense of what kind of level they are now achieving as a Okinawa delegation to the United States. So I think I'm in a position to a little bit answer to the question. So I start thinking about what the best answer for the question. Yes, that is a very difficult question, but I'm very depressed when I see the Japanese mainstream media said this time again, Onaga met this guy and Onaga met that guy, but they didn't understand Henoko or should be changed to different option. They are not accepted. The Onaga's hope is not accepted at all. These are the usual title of the news media in mainland Japan, not in Okinawa, but mainland Japan. But I think the diplomacy itself is not something to bring like souvenir or like something real, clear outcome. Of course, if we can get that kind of outcome, that would be great. But so first, I think from my experience as doing lobbying on a Hill, so first we have to meet people, first we have to know people, each other, and we have to talk about the issue from the many angles, try to seek the point we can share each other, then try to explain what the issue is to the people, especially in the United States. Usually they don't have any interest in Okinawa. Some people, when I met, said, "Where is Okinawa?" Or then they just point out the Kyushu Island, saying Okinawa. Or one of the chairman of the subcommittee of East Asia and Pacific in the House of Representatives said, what is the population of the Okinawa? Then he said, 2,000. 2,000 is the population of Okinawa. That was his question. He is the chair of the subcommittee of East Asia and Pacific, which covers the Okinawa issue, of course, in the Foreign Affairs Committee of House. So first, we have to let the people know about the issue and also tell them about the strategy of the Okinawa, or try to let them know what they can do. So it's a step-by-step thing. So usually the Japanese government or other government try to make a souvenir. We call it omiyage, but souvenir. Souvenir when they have the summit or when they have a very big meeting with other prime minister, other countries, statesmen. That's also why Prime Minister Abe started the construction in Henoko at the beginning of this month before the summit. But the diplomacy itself is not like just decide one thing. Look at Prime Minister Abe. He also did golf with President Trump for 2 days or 1 day. Spend like 3 days, 2.5 days together with President Trump. That is a way to get to know each other, and also for any people who want to make any influence in other countries. So when Governor Onaga meets a lot of congressmen and senators on the Hill, he always try to explain, what the issue is, what the position of Okinawa is, and also what you yourself can do for Okinawa, like these kind of topics. So, of course, there is no direct outcome, but first we have to make the foundation of the knowledge of Okinawa issue in the United States. Then, if after we can create this kind of foundation, we can, go maybe forward. But if there is no foundation at all, usually the American people don't have any interest or any knowledge about Okinawa. So it's a step-by-step thing. Then Governor Onaga, in that meaning, Governor Onaga has been taking a very good step towards changing the two governments' agreement. It's not very easy, of course. It's very difficult, I understand, but that is a status quo. So we have to change the status quo. We have to do something to change it. So it's not very easy.
I would like to ask you a question. If the US are retreating from Asia or the Middle East or Europe, and if Mr. Trump will be busy building walls and becoming more isolationist, and that isolationism started already with Mr. Obama, don't you think that Mr. Abe might have an opportunity to take the initiatives to make the alliance between the US and Japan more equal, and maybe to rearm Japan in a more autonomous way, and to play a more active political role in Asia, and regarding Okinawa in particular, if Abe becomes more an activist, it would maybe not be in favor of Okinawa necessarily. What do you think?
Yes, that is why I said right after the election, even the staff of the officials of the Japanese government was really worried what we can do when the United States decide to leave Japan or to leave Asia, that they have to think about a lot of options which they hadn't thought for more than 70 years. So I don't know. I don't think they will change their core statement, which was adopted at the summit at the beginning of this month. But yes, it's very big if. But if President Trump decide to come back again to the thing he made during the election, again, Japan has to think seriously about the community of Asia, or they might develop the defense power more, as well as try to make a very good relationships with other Asian countries. So that could change a very big dynamics, I think. I'm not saying that can become perfect or not, but that would change a lot.
Thank you. We have maybe time for one more question. Who wants to ask? Yes, please.
Hi, Saruta-san. Thank you for your presentation today. I'm a visitor here. My name is Thomas Sullivan. I wanted to ask you, obviously America is going through something of a political earthquake at the moment, and Mr. Trump has alienated a lot of allies, including Mexico, possibly Canada, Europe, etc. And I guess I was watching Mr. Miyahara in the Diet a few days ago, and he referred to the Prime Minister as a chicken for not taking a stronger view on the Israeli issue and the Palestinian issue. issue. And I just wanted to ask you, what's your perspective on how Mr. Abe is dealing with Mr. Trump to date? I mean, he's had two visits one very quick visit to New York and another one to Florida last week. So could you just give us your perspective on how you think he's handling Trump so far?
Thank you very much for the question. I think we lost the opportunity to think, reconsider about the relationships with other Asian countries as well as the United States, especially about the meeting of them in New York in November. That was just several days after the election. Then during the several days, almost all Japanese think, what can we do with this situation? What can we do with this situation? And a lot of discussion started there. But the government of Japan or Prime Minister Abe decided to just stick with the President Trump without criticizing even any kind of executive order Mr. Trump made. So there is nothing absolute, but according to Prime Minister's address in the Diet in January, the U.S.-Japan alliance is, I don't know how to say in English, but forever, or it existed and it exists and it will exist forever, something like that, he said. But nothing, stay forever. Nothing stay forever. So we Japanese should have also thought about or considered about the relationships with the United States or with Asia for a long time, since at any time we have to think about it. But until the election, we didn't think about it at all. So I'm saying that this is a very good opportunity to think about it. It's maybe too late, but still we have to think about it. For 70 years, we didn't think about it at all. So now is the time to think about the relationships with the United States as well as the relationships with the Asian countries. But to your question, the summit or the meeting in New York shows us the government of Japan decided to stay with the current situation, although we have a lot of problems like Okinawa here in this country. So that's very unfortunate that they decide to just, without any thought, stick with the current situation. That's unfortunate, I think.
Thank you very much, Ms. Saruta. We will end the session now. Nothing changed, but with Mr. Trump, everything will be volatile, I suppose, for quite some time. Even and the relations between Japan and the US will be, of course, affected by the volatility of the administration. And I want to offer you a one-year membership to the club.
Thank you very much.
I hope you will have the time to come back here, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.